Welcome, everyone. This is the December 19th. And isn't it, I just looked at my clock and it said 12:19. So it is 12:19. It's 12:19 on 12:19. So if that's good for anything, if you're superstitious. Anyway, welcome to our December 19th version of Perfect Connections. Um, and I've started our recording. This is our last meeting for 2025. And then we will pick up again on January 9th of 26. So, and in the old days, we used to say how it took us a few checks before we wrote the right date.
Yes.
I don't know if we can use that benchmark anymore for learning the new date of the year since people don't write checks like they used to. So,
Right.
um,
Even here in Minnesota.
yeah.
I was told by a friend of mine who grew up here before I moved. It's like just be ready for all the ladies in Lunds and Byerly's to be writing checks for their groceries.
Ah,
Oh, okay. Good to know.
yeah, I wonder if they still do it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Anyway, so as we move into 2026, I hope it's easy, whatever first time we write it. Okay. We'll go around. I'm Susan Walker, formerly with the University of Minnesota, Parent and Family Ed program. Now retired slash emeritus and absolutely loving the fact that I can continue my connections with family professionals like this. And I will turn it over to Katie Anderson.
There, I'm Katie Anderson, and I am the administrative assistant for our program here in Jordan, as well as the ECFE parent educator. And I will turn it over to Nancy.
I am Nancy Trahey, um, formerly parent educator and home visitor for Albany School District. I am now fully retired, and I attend these meetings when I can. With the purpose of trying to uh, create a document that's linked to the video of the meeting that has any resources that are mentioned in the group chat and that otherwise wouldn't be visible to viewers of the video. And I'm going to turn it over to Sarah.
I'm Sarah Alcock. I am a parent educator and home visitor with the Burnsville Egan Savage District. Coming up on the end of my of full 4 full years with them.
On mute. Happy anniversary, Sarah.
Oh, thank you.
Katie, how long have you been with Jordan?
Oh boy. So I started actually in 99, and I left to work from home for about 4 or 5 years. And then I started back in, oh, what does that make it? Like 06, 07. And I was the administrative assistant for a while, and then just was really missing parent ed. So got reinstated with my license and started that probably, oh, I have to look back, but 5 years ago, maybe.
Mhm.
So like after COVID, the program kind of just dissolved during COVID. And then I kind of picked it back up again, and yeah, and just love it. Love it. Love the families, love um, teaching. So yeah.
Yay. Well, you are an institution. At Jordan Early Childhood Services, which is like right behind you. Like the sign is right
Yes.
behind you. So you are.
Ta-da. It's actually, I know, and it's actually incorrect. They have their our program is called Early Learning Services, but I'm trying to keep it. I'm like, why can't we just keep it? Because I think it sounds kind of like ECFE, but they have to be I don't know. They got to change it, I guess. But yeah, I like it. So
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I'll quibble with how learning and childhood are equal. Like,
Mhm.
uh,
I'm
they'll
not the boss. So well.
well, we're going to turn to a question that Sarah had. This is a really great question. I mean, not that I'm judging quality of questions, but I'm from my own perspective, the topic of Sarah's question is really valuable for us as educators, especially for with adult educators, or educators of adults. Because one of the differences with adult in andragogy versus pedagogy is that adults are are independent. Right, and they bring lifelong experience into the classroom. And also they can walk, right? With childhood education, the kids are there K-12, it's kind of mandated. And it's a whole different sort of structure of for the learner, that puts teachers in more of a power position. And grades are involved, things like that. But with adults, it's a whole different ballgame. And a big feature with adults, is again, we want respect for what we know, and we want things practical because we want to fit it into our lives. And because even if we've paid for a class, we're still volunteer. Nobody is giving us grades. Very few of us are getting credits that mean anything towards a professional thing. And so we leave, right? If we're not satisfied, we'll leave. And um, and very often when we're teaching adults, we keep, as educators, we keep that in mind. We want to be, it's a hard job. It really is. We want to be respectful to everyone. We want to make a positive learning experience for everyone. When we talk about inclusivity, and it's a very broad sense of inclusivity, right? It's everyone in that room as learners, and um, including the adult experience. And um, and adults can be a lot more vocal than kids can. And and they can be more challenging, sometimes challenging, even though they're having a great time, right? They're going to come back week after week after week. But part of their own learning experience is that they're highly verbal, they're very analytical, and they want to contribute to it, right? Which also can be in the same class with people who are less verbal, who are less analytical, who are sitting there looking at the analytical person going, why the hell is it, like they're interrupting class. Like this is not that big of a deal, right? And so we balance all of that. And so that's in part why I really appreciate Sarah's question. So Sarah, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Okay.
But your question had to do with a parent who feels very, very knowledgeable about a particular, um, what would we call it, framework of parenting that has been around for a really long time. And it almost sounds like they have a rather fixed mindset when it comes to that, as opposed to your professional take on parenting, which is, of course, much, much broader. So, Sarah, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. I have a parent who has been on our parent advisory council for 3 to 4 years now. This might be her fourth year. Um, she she's very invested in ECFE, and she's one of our biggest uh, cheerleaders as far as getting the word out to other families that she might meet. She is has, as she calls it, and I'm quoting her directly. She has drunk the Kool-Aid on the love and logic framework. Um, she believes very strongly in it. She apparently led some book discussion on it with some other parents this summer. Um, but she feels very strongly that she kind of knows it all and um, doesn't want to hear any repeats of lessons. Well, I need new information. I want more. And uh, kind of forgetting the fact that not all of the parents in the advisory council have heard all of the lessons that my co-teacher and I have brought before them. I would just like some guidance on how to help her understand that um, while her perspective is very valid, it's not the same as everybody else's.
Sarah, let me ask you, so you mentioned that she's on the Parent Advisory Council, and then you also said how other people on the so is this is she viewing this as like specific to the parent, like this is an issue that she wants a Parent Advisory Council? Or I guess I'm just confused between
No,
a parent in a
within
class.
within our within our parent advisory council, once a month, the program coordinator comes in, talks about what's going on, what do the parents see that we could be doing, how can we be helping? But the other 3 out of 4 weeks, um, there is a more traditional parent education lesson or topic that my my cohort and I will take turns presenting.
This has become a trend, I think. Some districts have struggled to pull parents in for an advisory council, and so they're using an existing class as, they're coming for class, but as Sarah's saying, 1 week a month, they are the advisory council. They get the administrator or the coordinator gets feedback from that class. That your district isn't the only one that's gone to that model, Sarah. And it's create a challenge. Yeah.
It is. We, our they get what would be traditional parent education classes for free because they are willing to be on the advisory council and help out and give their feedback that way.
I'm curious, when she has said, I need more information or, things, does she say that in the group or does she say that to you separately? How does that?
Both.
um,
Both. Excuse me, pardon, she had when I mentioned about a month or so ago, I was going to do a lesson on the duality of parenthood. She said, "Well, you've done that before. I've heard that." She also said to me at another point in time in private, um, that lesson was no, actually I said I was going to do it on the mental load of motherhood, and she said, "No, you've done that before. I've heard that." And so then I adjusted it to the duality of parenthood. And she told me in private that, well, that was too close to what you've already done.
how have you responded so far?
What I've said is I hear what you're saying, and you've been in ECFE for a while now. Not all of the parents in the advisory council, not all of the parents in ECFE have heard all of the possible topics. And there are some things that we've come back to over and over again because they're important to hear. They're important that we make sure that they are covered at least once a year.
Yeah, I think that's great. And, reviewing them is beneficial, even if we've heard them before. So I think what you've said to her so far is what I would probably say. Yeah.
And I would imagine the group's makeup changes from time to time,
Yes, it
right?
does.
So you're getting different perspectives on a topic, an important topic. New parents have different perspectives or different questions to ask about the topic. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, I agree that there's value in making sure that it's a some topics are repeated each year.
Mhm. Mhm.
Does she understand that? I mean, the way that you're characterizing her response to you sounds a little bit demanding in a way, almost like this isn't fitting what I need as a learner because I've already heard this. So I'm curious in responding back with, I get, I get that. And as a part of a group, right? That I am also meeting the needs of the full group. And there are people who haven't heard this before, and I'm trying to, help them as well. So I am curious as well what her response is on that.
It was a very begrudging, oh, I suppose you're right. I hadn't thought of it. Um, I don't mean to demonize this mom. She is very, very much a huge advocate for our program. Um, it's just that I think she feels like she's heard it all, and she wants, she has absorbed that and wants something new.
So maybe one interesting thing to learn about her, and not at those times because it would seem
Right.
confrontational, probably would be to learn about her. What are her, what is she getting out of her ECFE experience, right? If
Hmm.
it's not necessarily the topics, what are, and I mean that in a good way.
Hmm.
Maybe it's the socialization, maybe it's the friendship, the ongoing friendship, maybe, who knows? I mean, I don't know because you know her better than I do, obviously, and maybe she hasn't really thought about what her new goals are. You know what I mean? At one point, she was maybe looking for information, and now she has some new goals. Maybe that'd be something to consider, Sarah, finding a friendly way to help her explore her reasons for why she's participating, and then understanding that other parents have different goals maybe than she does. I don't know.
Yeah, that makes
I
sense.
love that. I like that, Nancy. That's really good.
Hmm. That,
Reframe your thinking.
right.
Mhm.
Explain your thinking and understand that you are in a different, you might be in a different space than her and her and her.
Mhm.
And you might have heard all this. Instead of dismissing, hey, that's old news, how about you put your input in on how that has um, influenced you or changed your thinking when you heard it before.
I love that. I mean, there's so much, one is reinforcing the fact that this parent is so much into learning how to be a good parent, right?
Hmm.
And if she has devoured and has drunk the Kool-Aid of love and logic, it's just like praise hallelujah, that she is a voracious learner, and she has found this as something that she can really take into her stuff. I mean, there's been a lot of research on love and logic right through the years. It's a very old model, and
Mm.
And your job, your job, our job isn't to dismiss it and to say, well, the research about that says this and this and this, because there's a lot of it that's like really good, just
That's
as
valid.
well as the how to talk so your kids will listen, and that kind of thing. So there's really a lot there. And for different parents, there are different needs, right? So some need more of a behavioral approach, some need more of a cognitive approach, some are looking at, like deepening their emotional connection to their children. Some are looking for better communication, whatever. And if this works for her, considering that a lot of parents are so overwhelmed, stress, and then they're also, the defensive learners that are like, you can't teach me anything because I'm already good, or, like, don't tell me I'm a bad parent. Like,
Mhm.
don't you dare do that. And so you're finding with this particular parent all the good in her sort of excitement about this model. I think it's like reinforcing it to her that this is a good thing, right? That this is a good thing, while you're also helping her understand that this is what we want for everybody in the council. This is what we want for everybody, is for them to be as excited about learning and being, such a, like a really interested parent, and truly an advocate for ECFE like you are. So it's like you're an ambassador for parents, you're an parent learners, you're an ambassador for ECFE. Good for you. Right. And so, like, heightening that value for her as a unique individual, while you're also reminding her of her impact within the whole group, that she is part of the whole group. And by doing that as well, as we've been talking about, you can also, use her in a way to, what is it about this model that you've applied to your parenting? How has that worked for you? Right. And because I always think, and I learned this from teaching 18 to 22-year-olds long after I was 18 to 22, right, is to really build on the experiences of the people in the classroom to teach each other. Because my own experiences are going to go back to the 1970s and 80s before they all were born. And so, and by doing that, then in a way, she becomes an ally to your teaching. And it's also, in a way, challenging her, but you're not saying the word challenging. But anytime, it's sort of like in class where you learn something and then someone says, now give us a practical example of that. And then you're going, ooh, I don't know that I do. I don't know that it's like, because it's still in here, you haven't really practiced it. And so in a way, you're, again, I don't like the word challenge, but you are asking her to apply it to her own parenting experience. And by doing that, two things are going to happen. One is she's going to find out maybe what she does know and what she still has yet to know, and room for your involvement to help her apply, this to her own parenting. And then two, so that it then helps her not have that mindset of, oh, I've already heard this, but more like, I have heard this, maybe I don't know everything about it. And by our talking about this with a professional parenting educator, I can learn more, right? The other thing that it's going to do is to open up those practical experiences of applying the model in her own parenting that she's found successful, that is going to be great for the other people in the group, right? And then it will open up questions, or it gives you that opportunity to say, well, that's really worked well with your 3-year-old son who, is not on the spectrum, but let's remember Mary over here has a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old whose son is on the has just been diagnosed. And so some of this might be a bit of a challenge for her. How might we moderate this in a way? Mary, how do you think this could be helpful for you? Right. And so you're taking her experience and opening up to the full group. And by applying it, asking her to help apply it with others, she's going to feel both great about what she knows, right? It's reinforcing her as a learner. And then it's also pointing out that, one model needs tailoring to each individual family. And which is then why research exposes these models as not being one size fits all, right? And but you don't start with, well, research has denied this, right? It's like, let's move with your experience. Let's share it with the class, right? And by sharing it, with the class, we'll find out how it fits with other people, and it opens it up for discussion and for questions. So I don't know. I mean,
Right.
and that may or may not work with her, but I think a basic principle is sort of framing it as, kudos to you for, for being such a great advocate for parenting, and let's explore this model more and how it works for other families.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Susan. Um, Not dismissing, not that I have, but just
No,
being really careful to not dismiss her, uh, the beliefs she already has. But how are we going? How how can they be built on? How can the beliefs she has apply to her and her,
right.
who's never heard that before?
Exactly. 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 Yeah.
And maybe also just kind of reminding them what our role is. I always say at the beginning, I am here to, bring information, but I feel like you are all each other's best resources. So kind of taking some of it, you are giving, I've heard this already, like you are giving me duplicate information. It's more like, does that make sense? Like I'm here to facilitate this group. So like you said, I think earlier, Nancy, every discussion is different and is going to bring up different points. So just kind of maybe reminding them what your role is. I don't know. There might be some value in doing a little bit of that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, one of the great things about ECFE is not an expert model, right? And I think what has happened through the years with some of these models like Love and Logic, How to Talk to Your Kids Will Listen, is that when families are feeling kind of desperate, as we all do, right? And then we hear this model and we hear these knowledgeable people who present this model in a very expert way, right? Then it's just like, oh, thank God. Like, here's the answer, right? And the great thing that we do in ECFE is we don't do that,
Mhm.
right? Because we respect the individual as being knowledgeable and building on their experience and tailoring what they know to their individual family, right? And so they are the expert, but we're helping them get there. We're helping them finesse that through discussion and um, and build their confidence, and being able to hear. And this is the great thing too, with getting out of a book and talking as with in a group, and your skilled facilitation with that group, right, is also being able to ask questions to other people. Well, that's really interesting. How did you do that? Or that's really interesting. I bet I could apply that with my younger kid, or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it's not the expert model, which for some parents honestly will not jive, because that's what they want, bless their hearts, right? Because yeah, I mean, if you are, um, it's very hard to have confidence when you're truly, truly stressed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I call it spoon-fed answers. If you are in that I don't know what to do next mode, listening to Sarah tell me something, oh my gosh, I'm going to take that and run with it. And like, no, I didn't say that.
Yeah.
I said, this is something that some people have found is helpful.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's tricky. It really is. Um, yeah.
Well, thank
Yeah,
you
and
very
then
much for your
sometimes,
guys' input. And I hope that I can take this with me as I go forward with this next quarter with that particular parent.
You know,
yeah,
the other thing, Sarah, if she is glommed onto, that particular model, I haven't looked at it recently, but you could do a Google Scholar search or just a Google search, on an update on Love and Logic, right? I
um,
mean, that's one of the challenges with text or with books is, people will go to public libraries and they may get the 1999 version of a book, right? When there have been updates using newer information, right? And a lot of and the sad thing too is we've also been pretty white as writers. A lot of our researchers and a lot of the sort of quote unquote parenting experts. And so those books too that were written back in the 80s and the 90s and based on, pretty good behavioral research, they weren't tested on a diversity of audiences. And if you look at the research on them, I mean, like what's her name's styles, parenting styles, isn't it awful? This is me in retirement. Like I can't even remember Diana Baumrein's name. I mean, that was like in the 60s. And, God knows there's been tremendous amount of research on parenting styles since then with testing around the world, right? So anyway, so sometimes somebody's going to get something out of a library that's going to have the basic model, but it's going to be written from a particular perspective that a newer version, has been is better. And so there are also, researchers like me that would come in and somebody would go, let's retest the validity of Love and Logic, right? And then what they find is it's still very valid and adding XYZ, right? So all I'm saying, Sarah, is in your expert role, since she is voracious on this model, would be to maybe do some investigation into what does Love and Logic look like in 2025, right? Or if you're writing your checks in a couple weeks, 2020. Um, and because then you are, as the sort of authority, you are presenting her with more,
Mhm.
and um, and that's where if it, like I might go on to Google Scholar and I might see if there's any published research, any something applied, maybe from the last 5 years and say, and here's some articles if you're really interested, if you're interested in reading more or to read about, and this you have to tailor to the individual person, right? But anyway, to just, I think, and I know that there may even be like Love and Logic conferences or conventions or or the seed of those models are sometimes what brings people together. So yeah, I mean, so you could just do a little bit of investigation into what does Love and Logic look like in 2025 and offer her some of those resources.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a Reddit group.
yeah.
She could join that.
Yeah. Oh, this was really, really useful. Um this group and then one other of my classes, I'm like I'm I'm feel I'm I feel like I'm treading water versus standing on the side of the body of water. So
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
That was a good reminder for me just to like, it's hard not to get a little defensive when someone kind of says something like that. So that's a really good reminder to just pause and, okay, I hear what you're saying. I mean, that was a really good reminder for me. So thanks for your question. And
yeah.
the discussion was really helpful. Yeah.
Right, not taking things personally. And
Yes.
and I'm sitting here chuckling because a couple of similar situations came to mind for me. One, when I would say as a preschool teacher to parents in our workshops every year about reading, early reading literacy skills, and I would say one of the best things you can do for your child is to read to them every day. And they would go, "Oh, come on, it can't be that simple."
Yeah.
No? I'm like, this is research based, guys. It's not just Nancy Trahey. That local resource sometimes doesn't sound as powerful as the big experts that are nationally or internationally known. Does that sound like anybody's spouse? They're all wonderful, right? But somehow what your spouse says to you just doesn't hold the weight that, that outside resource does maybe sometimes.
That's why, so
Yes.
Nancy, right there, that's why I am, unlike some of my coworkers, tend to still offer handouts.
Mm.
They don't have to take them, but they can, because some of them are like, I don't, um, my husband doesn't listen to me, or my wife thinks I'm wrong, or couldn't possibly be right. And it's like, okay, there we go.
Yeah,
You know,
it can open up dialogue, right?
yeah,
For
yeah,
the parenting partners. I
yeah.
agree. Yeah. Yeah.
I need to get going because I'm expecting my niece any minute. Um, thank you guys so much for your input and have a wonderful holiday season.
Thank you, Sarah.
Happy holidays.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you to
Bye-bye.
everybody.
See you all
Thanks,
in the new
everyone.
year.
26. Yep.
Okay, bye.
Take care.